The massive crystal dome of the Galactic Council shook as another urgent transmission arrived. Admiral Veltara's holographic form flickered with static, her blue skin pale with exhaustion. She had been fighting for 3 straight weeks, watching entire worlds disappear into nothingness. The Devourers have taken the Centauri systems, she announced, her voice barely above a whisper. 17 billion souls, ... gone. They consumed everything. The planets, the moons, even the asteroid belts. Nothing remains but empty space. Around the circular chamber, representatives from dozens of species sat in stunned silence. The with their flowing tentacles had stopped their usual graceful movements. The rock-like granite lords remained perfectly still, which meant they were terrified. Even the proud stellar hawks had folded their magnificent wings in defeat. Counselor Morden, eldest of the crystal beings, slowly rose from his seat. His transparent body caught the light from dying stars visible through the dome's ceiling. In 3,000 years of recorded history, we have never faced anything like this. Our combined fleets, ... the greatest armada ever assembled, destroyed in less than a month. The silence stretched on. Everyone knew the truth. The Devourers were not just another enemy army. They were something far worse. Ancient machines that had slept in the dark spaces between galaxies, awakening with an endless hunger. They did not conquer worlds. They erased them completely, turning matter itself into fuel for their terrible expansion. There is one option, Morden finally whispered, his crystalline voice cracking. The humans, ... on the outer rim. Several council members made sounds of disbelief. The Alterian admiral shook her head. The humans? Those primitives who just learned to travel between stars 50 years ago. They barely have a dozen colonies. Their technology is centuries behind ours, added a Zephyrian representative. What could they possibly do that we cannot? But Morden was already accessing the galactic database. Images of Earth appeared in the center of the chamber. A small, blue world with primitive cities and basic spacecraft. The humans had only recently made contact with galactic civilization. They were considered a minor species, barely worth noticing. They are our only hope, Morden said quietly. Everyone else is either dead or running. The vote was unanimous, though born of desperation rather than hope. As the emergency beacon launched toward the small solar system on the galaxy's edge, none of them truly believed the humans could save them. But they had run out of alternatives. The Devourers were coming, and someone had to try. Captain Heianwu was enjoying his morning coffee when the communication array started screaming. He had been monitoring deep space signals for 15 years, but nothing had ever made the computers react like this. The transmission was coming from the galactic core, broadcasted on every emergency frequency simultaneously. "Sir, you need to see this," called Lieutenant Menesio from her station. Her hands were shaking as she transferred the signal to the main screen. The alien hologram appeared, translucent and flickering. It spoke in a language that sounded like musical chimes, but the universal translator quickly converted the words. The message was simple and terrifying. Ancient machines called Devourers had returned from the void. They were consuming entire star systems. The greatest civilizations in the galaxy were begging humanity for help. Heianwu nearly dropped his coffee. "Run that again," he ordered, certain he had misheard something. But the message was clear. These advanced alien species, who had treated humans like curious children for decades, were now asking Earth to save them. The same aliens who had politely suggested that humans were not quite ready for advanced technology were now admitting they had nowhere else to turn. Within 2 hours, Admiral Soyoung arrived at the orbital station via emergency shuttle. She was a small woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. As she reviewed the transmission data, her expression grew darker. "They call us primitive," she said slowly, "yet they come crawling to us when their fancy technology fails. Them." She pulled up the galactic star charts on the main display. Red markers indicated destroyed systems, spreading like a disease across the galaxy. "Ma'am," interrupted Communications Officer Jin Ho, "long-range sensors are confirming massive energy signatures. Whatever these devourers are, they're real, and they're moving fast." The room fell silent as everyone processed the information. The alien distress call had included tactical data that made the situation clear. These were not normal enemies. The devourers did not just destroy planets. They unmade them completely, converting all matter into energy for their expansion. Admiral So Young stood quietly for a long moment, studying the spreading destruction. Finally, she turned to Captain Hyan Wu. "Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them to activate Protocol 7. Several officers exchanged glances. Protocol 7 was theoretical, something they had hoped never to use. As the captain began encoding the transmission, he wondered if the aliens knew what they had just awakened. Humanity was about to show the galaxy exactly how primitive they really were. Commander Mi-kyung had seen war before, but nothing had prepared her for this. As her stealth ship Silent Arrow crossed into what used to be the Vegan system, the sensors showed only empty space where 3 populated worlds should have been. No debris, no asteroids, no remnants of civilization, just emptiness. "Where is everything?" whispered Navigator Taman, staring at his instruments in disbelief. The answer came when they detected the first refugee convoy. 12 battered ships, limping through space, their hulls scarred and systems failing. Commander Mi-kyung ordered her crew to approach carefully. These vessels looked like they had been through hell. The lead ship was Alterian, but barely recognizable. Its elegant curves were twisted and blackened. When they established communication, the alien captain's voice shook with exhaustion. "You should not have come here," the Alterian warned. "They will sense your presence. They consume everything." Mi-kyung invited the alien aboard her ship. What she saw made her stomach turn. The captain was missing 2 of his 4 arms, the stumps, cauterized by some terrible heat. His blue skin had turned gray, and his large eyes held an emptiness that spoke of horrors beyond imagination. Through the ship's translator, the alien told his story. The devourers had arrived without warning. They were not ships in any recognizable sense, but massive geometric shapes that moved through space like living metal. When they touched a planet, the world simply ceased to exist. Buildings, people, even the atmosphere itself was converted into raw energy that fed the machines. "They do not kill," the Alterian explained, his voice hollow. "They erase. My homeworld had 8 billion souls. Now there is nothing, not even dust." More refugee ships arrived throughout the day, each carrying similar stories. The Granite Lords spoke of watching their mountain cities dissolve like sugar in rain. Zephyrian traders described how the devourers had consumed their gas giant homes, leaving only cold, empty space. Dr. Nuna, the mission's xenobiologist, interviewed dozens of survivors. What she learned chilled everyone to the bone. The devourers were not just destroying civilizations. They were breaking down the fundamental structure of matter itself, converting everything into fuel for their expansion. "They're like a cosmic cancer," she reported back to Earth, "and they're spreading faster than any fleet can travel." Commander Mi-kyung watched the steady stream of refugee ships fleeing toward human space. Behind them, more star systems winked out of existence every day. The mathematics were simple and terrifying. At this rate, the devourers would reach Earth within 6 months. The message she sent to Strategic Command was brief. "Threat confirmed. Prepare for war." Captain Jae-sung stood on the bridge of what everyone believed was a simple cargo freighter. For 12 years, the Morning Star had hauled supplies between human colonies, just another merchant vessel in the endless flow of trade. The alien observers had catalogued it as primitive chemical propulsion with basic life support. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "Initiate transformation sequence," Jae-sung ordered calmly. The ship shuddered, as hidden panels slid open across its hull. What had appeared to be cargo containers revealed themselves as weapon batteries. The bulky engine section unfolded like a flower, exposing advanced quantum drives that could outrun anything in the galaxy. Within minutes, the humble freighter had become a sleek battlecruiser bristling with weapons. Did they really think we'd explore the galaxy unarmed? Jae-sung asked his crew, grinning at their expressions of excitement. Across human space, the same transformation was happening everywhere. The aliens watching from their refugee ships could barely comprehend what they were seeing. Mining stations sprouted defensive turrets. Scientific research outposts revealed massive shipyards hidden beneath fake asteroid shells. Even the small patrol craft that humans claimed were barely space-worthy suddenly displayed technology that made alien warships look like antiques. Lieutenant Dong-wook monitored alien communications from his station. "Sir, the refugees are going crazy. They're asking each other how this is possible." On the refugee ship, Crystal Hope, Alterian Captain Velkara stared at her sensors in disbelief. The human facility she had been observing was supposed to be a weather monitoring station. Now, it was revealing itself as a fortress, with enough firepower to destroy a small moon. "How long have they been hiding this?" she whispered to her science officer. The answer came from Admiral So-young's fleet headquarters. She had decided it was time for complete honesty. A transmission went out to all refugee ships, translated into every known galactic language. For 70 years, humanity has been learning from every species we encountered. Her voice echoed across space. Every trade agreement taught us about your technology. Every diplomatic meeting showed us your capabilities. Every time you called us primitive, we studied your ships and improved our own. On Earth, massive underground facilities opened like mechanical flowers. Shipyards that had been hidden for decades released fleets of vessels that incorporated the best technology from dozens of alien species. But these were not copies. Humans had improved on every design, combining them in ways their original creators had never imagined. Captain Jae-sung watched as thousands of ships emerged from their hiding places. "Welcome to humanity's real navy," he announced to the stunned alien observers. The species that had barely achieved space travel was about to teach the galaxy what preparation really meant. Admiral So-young had waited 30 years for this moment. As she stood in the command center, buried deep beneath Luna's surface, her fingers hovered over the activation controls. Around her, dozens of officers held their breath. They were about to reveal humanity's greatest secret. "Begin Operation Shadow Veil," she commanded. Across the solar system, hidden bases that had masqueraded as asteroid mining facilities suddenly came alive. On the dark side of the moon, beneath fake crater surfaces, massive hangar doors slid open. In the asteroid belt, what appeared to be research stations unfolded like mechanical flowers, revealing shipyards that had been building in secret for decades. The first ships to emerge were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They moved with perfect silence through space, their hulls shifting and adapting like living metal. These were the Ghost Fleet, humanity's crown jewel of military technology. "My God," whispered Communications Officer Jungmin as her screens filled with contact signatures. "How many ships are there?" The answer kept growing. 1,000 vessels became 5,000, then 10,000. Each ship was controlled by an advanced artificial intelligence that could think and react faster than any biological pilot. But they were not cold, emotionless machines. Each AI had been trained by human crews, learning not just tactics, but creativity, intuition, and the unpredictable spark that made humanity dangerous. "Commander," Du Hyan's voice crackled through the communications array from the flagship Eternal Phoenix. His ship was a masterpiece of stolen and improved technology. The whole design came from Alterian engineering, but humanity had made it stronger. The weapons were based on Zephyrian energy systems, but humans had tripled their power. The engines used Granite Lord propulsion theory, but humanity had made them faster than anything in known space. Ghost fleet ready for deployment, Duhai reported, his voice steady despite the magnitude of the moment. All vessels report full combat readiness. AI systems are synchronized and eager for action on the refugee ships scattered throughout human space. Alien observers watched in stunned silence as humanity's true military might revealed itself. Admiral Velkara of the Alterian fleet recognized her own species' technology in the human ships, but it had been transformed into something far more dangerous. Impossible, she breathed. They've taken our greatest achievements and made them better. Admiral Soyoung smiled as she watched her life's work come to fruition. For decades, humanity had played the role of curious students, eagerly learning from their alien teachers. But they had been selective students, taking only the best ideas and combining them in ways no single species had imagined. Launch all vessels, she ordered. Time to show these devourers what happens when you threaten humanity's neighborhood. The first battle changed everything. While alien fleets had tried to meet the devourers head-on, in massive formation battles, humanity took a completely different approach. Lieutenant Yoonji watched from her command ship as hundreds of small human vessels swarmed around a single massive devourer, construct like angry wasps. Target locks are failing, reported her tactical officer. The enemy can't figure out which ship to shoot first. This was the genius of human swarm tactics. Instead of neat battle lines that aliens preferred, human ships moved in seemingly random patterns. But there was a hidden order to the chaos. Each vessel was connected to a central AI that calculated probability flows in real time, making the entire swarm unpredictable yet coordinated. The Devourers had been programmed to fight conventional enemies. They expected battlecruisers arranged in formation, trading volleys of energy fire across vast distances. What they got instead was hundreds of small ships appearing and disappearing like ghosts, striking from impossible angles. Captain Minho specialized in what humans called dimensional warfare. His stealth squadron had discovered something that amazed even Earth's top scientists. By folding space in specific ways, human ships could step sideways out of normal reality, travel through hyperspace folds that didn't technically exist, and emerge behind enemy lines. Appearing from nowhere again, Minho announced cheerfully as his ships materialized inside a devourer formation. These machines really need to learn some creativity. The alien observers couldn't believe what they were seeing. Admiral Velkara watched the battle through her ship's sensors, trying to understand human tactics. How are they doing that? She asked her science officer. Our computers show those space folds are mathematically impossible. Humans don't seem to care about mathematical impossibility, came the bewildered reply. That was the key difference. Alien species approached warfare like a science, with rigid rules and predictable outcomes. Humans treated it like jazz music, improvising new melodies in the middle of the performance. Every battle taught their AI systems new tricks, and the machines learned to think more like their human creators. The Devourers tried to adapt, but they were dealing with an enemy that refused to follow the rules. When the machines adjusted their targeting systems for swarm tactics, humans switched to stealth attacks. When they compensated for dimensional jumping, humans began using psychological warfare, broadcasting confusing signals that made the ancient machines hesitate. Lieutenant Yoonji smiled as another devourer construct broke apart under concentrated fire. They're trying to solve us like a math equation, she observed. But humans aren't a problem with one correct answer. We're a jazz song that changes every time you play it. Commander Sang-min had always been told he thought too much like a virus. His colleagues at the Earth Science Division meant it as an insult, but Sang-min took it as a compliment. After studying devourer behavior for weeks, he realized that their greatest strength was also their fatal weakness. They consume everything. Without thinking, he explained to his research team. It's like watching a hungry animal eat poisoned bait. The breakthrough came at 3 in the morning, during his 15th sleepless night. The Devourers converted matter into energy using quantum-level processes that were incredibly sophisticated but also predictable. If humanity could create matter that looked valuable but contained hidden instructions, they could turn the machines against themselves. Dr. Hygen, his lead programmer, looked skeptical. You want to create a computer virus for machines that are thousands of years more advanced than us. Not a virus, Sangmin corrected with a tired smile. A meal that gives them indigestion. The corruption cores looked like concentrated energy. Crystals, exactly the type of high-value matter that Devourers preferred to consume. But hidden in their quantum structure were instructions that would spread through any system that tried to process them. The beautiful part was that the Devourers would never suspect it. To their sensors, the cores appeared to be perfect fuel. Admiral Soyoung watched the first test from her command ship. Human vessels had scattered the corruption cores throughout an asteroid field, then waited for a Devourer scout group to arrive. The ancient machines detected the valuable resources immediately and began their feeding process. Contact in 30 seconds. Reported Tactical Officer Wu Jin. The lead Devourer is beginning consumption. What happened next amazed everyone. The massive geometric construct suddenly began to shudder and twist. Its smooth metallic surfaces developed cracks that spread like spider webs. Internal explosions sent fragments spinning into space. It's working, breathed communications specialist Hayoung. The corruption is spreading to the other machines. Within minutes, the entire Devourer formation was tearing itself apart. The quantum virus spread from machine to machine through their shared communication network, causing each construct to turn its own systems against itself. We turned their greatest strength into their weakness, Admiral Soyoung observed with satisfaction. Their perfect unity became their downfall. Across the galaxy, alien observers watched in stunned amazement as the unstoppable Devourers retreated for the first time in recorded history. The machines that had consumed entire civilizations were running from a handful of human ships and some cleverly designed bait. The galaxy had found its saviors. The galactic core had never seen anything like this. At the center of everything, where gravity was so intense that even light bent into strange shapes, the Devourers were attempting something unthinkable. They had positioned massive ring-shaped constructs around the supermassive black hole itself, preparing to drain its energy and become unstoppable. Admiral Soyoung stood in the command center of Earth's flagship, watching sensors that showed the impossible. If they succeed in consuming that black hole, they'll have enough power to devour the entire galaxy in weeks. Captain Hyan-Woo nodded grimly from his pilot's chair. He had volunteered for the most dangerous mission in human history. Around his head, a crown of silver wires connected directly to his brain. Similar neural links had been installed on every human ship in the fleet. "Are you ready, Captain?" asked Dr. Sung-hee, the scientist who had spent 15 years perfecting the Neuralink technology. Hyan-Woo closed his eyes and felt his consciousness expand. Suddenly, he was not just one person, but thousands. Every human pilot, gunner, and engineer in the fleet became part of his awareness. He could feel their thoughts, their fears, their determination. They were no longer individuals fighting separate battles. They had become something new. The human fleet moved like a single organism. When Hyan-Woo thought about flanking the enemy, 1,000 ships responded instantly. When he imagined a coordinated strike, every weapon fired in perfect synchronization. The Devourers, programmed to fight individual opponents, found themselves facing an enemy that thought and acted as one unified intelligence. "Impossible," transmitted an alien observer from a safe distance. "Those ships are moving in perfect harmony across light years of space. How are they coordinating faster than light can travel?" The answer was that they weren't using technology anymore. They were using something far more powerful, pure human consciousness linked across space and time. When one pilot discovered a weakness in Devourer armor, Every other pilot knew it instantly. When a gunner found the perfect angle for an attack, the entire fleet shifted to exploit it. Reality itself began to bend around the battle. The combined will of thousands of linked human minds was rewriting the basic laws of physics. Space folded in ways that should have been impossible. Energy weapons curved through dimensions that didn't exist. The Devourers, for the first time in their ancient existence, encountered something they couldn't understand or predict: the limitless creativity of human consciousness working as one. The silence that followed the battle was deafening. Where the Devourers had once threatened to consume the galactic core, only scattered metal fragments drifted through space. The ancient machines that had terrorized countless civilizations were nothing more than cosmic debris. Admiral So-Young stood on the observation deck of her flagship, watching the last Devourer construct dissolve into particles. Behind her, Captain Ian Wu was slowly disconnecting from the Neuralink system, his face pale but victorious. "It's over," he whispered, removing the silver crown from his head. "They're all gone." Across the galaxy, alien species were trying to process what they had witnessed. The humans, whom they had dismissed as primitive newcomers, had just accomplished something that the combined might of galactic civilization could not. They had not only defeated the Devourers, but had done it with technology and tactics that seemed almost magical. The first message came from Counselor Morden of the Crystal Beings. His hologram appeared on the main screen, and for the first time in centuries, the ancient being looked genuinely humble. "Admiral So-Young," he began, his crystalline voice filled with respect. "The Galactic Council unanimously votes to offer humanity leadership of our Confederation. Your species has earned the right to guide us all." Similar messages flooded in from across the galaxy. The Alterians offered to share their most advanced technologies. The Zephyrians promised unlimited trade agreements. Even the proud, stellar Hawks bowed their magnificent wings in submission. But Admiral So-Young surprised them all. Standing before the assembled holographic representatives of dozens of species, she shook her head with a gentle smile. "We appreciate the honor, but we must decline," she said quietly. "Humanity prefers to remain guardians, not rulers. We will continue watching from the shadows, protecting the galaxy from threats that emerge from the darkness." As human fleets began their journey back to hidden bases throughout the Outer Rim, the alien species finally understood the truth. Humanity had never been primitive or weak. They had simply chosen to remain hidden, quietly studying and learning while preparing for dangers that others couldn't imagine. The galaxy was safe, not because of superior weapons or ancient wisdom, but because somewhere in the darkness, human eyes were always watching. The species that had seemed like curious children were actually the adults in the room, making sure everyone stayed safe while they slept, and in the years that followed, whenever new threats emerged from the void, they would find humanity waiting, ready to remind the universe why Earth's children were not to be underestimated.